It was a Tuesday. Nothing unusual. A woman sat on her kitchen floor. Not on a chair. The floor. She'd been crying for about 40 minutes. The kind of crying that doesn't announce itself with sobs. The quiet kind. The kind that just happens while you're doing dishes, until suddenly you're sitting on the floor and you're not sure how you got there. Her parrot was in the other room. And then, he wasn't. He had flown to her. Without being called. Without any sound from her. He landed on the floor beside her, walked to her knee, and pressed his head against her leg. He sat there for 11 minutes. She counted later, because she had nothing else to do but sit there. The researcher who documented this incident, not this specific incident, but dozens like it across multiple studies, described what the parrot was doing as behavioral attunement. The parrot was not responding to a command. He was responding to something he had sensed and decided, on his own, required his presence. The thing is, we still don't entirely understand how he knew. Most people ask, can parrots feel emotions? That's the wrong question. The right question, the one that has been producing genuinely surprising research for the last decade, is this. Can parrots read yours? Because those are two very different things. And the research on the second question is, frankly, more interesting than most people expect. Your parrot may or may not experience grief the way you do. That question has a long scientific road ahead of it. But your parrot detecting that you are experiencing grief, detecting it faster and more accurately than most humans would, that is documented. That has been studied. And the mechanism behind it is not what people assume. When your parrot looks at you across the room, they are not doing one thing. They are running 5 separate streams of input simultaneously, and processing all of them together in a way that produces what parrot owners call that feeling that my bird knows. The first is posture. Parrots are exquisitely sensitive to body language. Before you say a word, before your voice changes, before you even consciously register that something has shifted in you, your shoulders have moved. The angle of your spine has changed. The speed of your movements has slowed or become sharp. Your parrot reads posture the way a skilled therapist reads a patient who claims to be fine. When you're upset, your body changes before your mind does. Your parrot sees the body. The second channel is voice. Not what you say. How you say everything. Parrots are vocal learners with extraordinarily refined auditory processing. They can distinguish between tones of voice, not just loud versus soft, but the specific acoustic properties of speech under emotional load. The quality of your voice when you are stressed is measurably different from your voice when you are calm. Not just in volume or speed, in the overtones, in the resonance, in the microsecond variations in pitch that carry emotional information. Your parrot hears all of it. Research from Open University, published in December 2024, showed that parrots can use speech tools to express emotional states, which implies they are categorizing and distinguishing between emotional qualities in communication. They are not treating all voice as equivalent. They are parsing it. The third channel is facial expression. Parrots have highly developed visual systems, better color discrimination than humans, excellent motion detection, strong sensitivity to facial movement. They watch your face. They have been watching your face since the first day you brought them home. They know your face at rest. They know your face when you're focused. They know your face when you're performing calm for the benefit of people on a phone call. The difference between those faces is visible to your parrot. The fourth is chemosensory information, the changes in your body's chemistry that accompany emotional states. Human bodies under stress produce specific chemical changes. Cortisol levels rise. Adrenaline shifts body odor. Skin conductance changes. and parrots deprived of their bonded human show measurable physiological stress responses, elevated heart rate, increased stress hormones, before any visual or auditory cue of the human's absence is provided. Something they are sensing, in a way researchers are still characterizing. The fifth channel is behavioral history. This is the one people underestimate most. Your parrot has been studying you. Not in a formal way, in the way that any social animal studies the individual they have chosen to bond with. They have built, over months and years, a model of what you normally look like. How fast you normally move. What your voice normally sounds like. What you normally do at this time of day. When you deviate from normal, when something is wrong, that deviation is detectable. Not because your parrot is psychic, because your parrot has been paying attention. In 2018, researchers studying cockatiels published findings in PLOS ONE that documented something called emotional contagion. When a cockatiel heard distress calls from a bird, they had a close relationship with not a stranger, not any bird, specifically their bonded partner. Their own stress indicators increased. Heart rate, toll, behavioral agitation, crest position. All of it changed in response to their partner's distress. When the distress calls came from a stranger, an unfamiliar bird, the response was significantly weaker. The researchers concluded that the birds were not just responding to the sound of distress as an alarm. They were responding to the specific distress of their specific partner, with a response that appeared to reflect something like empathy. You are your parrot's flock partner. You are the bonded individual, the one whose distress signals have been registered and filed and weighted differently from all other signals in the environment. When you're upset, you are producing signals. Your parrot is receiving them, processing them, and responding to them in a way that goes beyond simple alarm. They are not merely detecting that something abnormal is happening. They may be registering, on whatever level their nervous system registers things, that you are the one in distress. And that matters differently to them than any other distress would. I want to be careful here, because there is a version of this story that science does not yet support. The solid ground. Parrots detect changes in human emotional state through multiple sensory channels simultaneously. The detection is fast, and parrots respond with behavioral changes. They approach, become quiet, vocalize differently, physically position themselves near their bonded human. This is documented. This happens. What is not yet fully established? Whether parrots understand human emotion in any conceptual way. Whether they feel something like what we would call empathy. Whether their approach to an upset human is driven by something we would recognize as caring, or whether it is a behavioral response to detected disruption in their environment. What? The gap is not, we don't know if this is real. The behavior is real. The gap is we don't yet know what this is. I find that gap interesting rather than disappointing. When your parrot comes to you when you're sad, when they press against you, or become very still, or change their vocalizations, they are doing something that requires more explanation than birds are smart. 5 streams of sensory input. A detailed internal model of who you normally are. A detection system that is measuring you against that model constantly. And a bonding mechanism that makes your distress register differently from all other distress in their environment. Put those together, and the woman on the kitchen floor becomes less mysterious. Her parrot did not magically know she was crying. He detected changes in posture, in her breathing, in the quality of sounds from the kitchen, or no sounds, against a model built from years of attention. And he came. Not because birds are magical. Because this specific bird had been paying attention to this specific person for long enough to notice that something was different, and to decide that different required his presence. Here's the question I want to leave you with. We talk about animals sensing human emotions as though it is something that happens to us. Like weather. Like the parrot is a barometer we happen to own. But consider the direction this actually runs. Your parrot came to you on the kitchen floor. Who initiated that? Who decided that the situation required response? Who moved toward the distress rather than away from it? The parrot? Not because you asked. Not because you rewarded it. Because they had spent enough time studying you, attending to you, learning what your normal looks and sounds like, that, when you fell outside of normal, they noticed. And they chose to do something about it. I'm not sure what to call that. But I know what it felt like to the woman on the kitchen floor. It felt like being known. I want to know, was there a moment when your bird came to you when you were upset? Not when you called them. Not when you had food. Just, they came. Tell me what happened. Tell me what they did when they got there. Drop it in the comments. I read everything. And here's a question I keep thinking about. If your parrot has been building a model of who you normally are, years of watching you, what do you think they know about you that you don't know they know? See you in the next one.